Disc golf has exploded over the last couple of years, and it doesn't matter if you've been playing for a decade and you're a pro level player, or if you've been playing for a week and you've just gotten into disc golf. Maybe you're a perpetual rec player. None of that matters. What matters is how can we continue to grow disc golf and make it a better space. In today's episode, we bring on our friend Xander Kirby from Beacon Sports Management, and he has helped bridge the gap between athlete and company. He has been able to help many athletes in disc golf find a way to get deals that suit them and will help them be a better player on and off of the course and keep them throwing the best plastic that they can. Xander shares with us what exactly his company is, how he created it, and what their mission is, and how, with representation in the sport, we are able to make the sport a better place for those top-tier athletes, and why it's important for amateurs to understand and to help support the cause of bringing that transparency and bringing representation to the pro side. Xander shares with us some of his biggest challenges he's faced growing this business and growing his company, as well as some things that he's super excited for. He's got an incredible team, and we talk about some of the behind-the-scenes details when it comes to contract discussions. We also discuss, is the disc golf window closing? Is the opportunity for disc golf to become as big as the MLS, if not bigger, in the United States? Is that window closing? Is the Disc Golf Pro Tour doomed? We talk about that and more. We talk about some ways to make the Disc Golf Pro Tour better so that way that window can stay open and a return on investment possibly can be made. Make sure you stay tuned through the end of the episode as we have some exclusive information never before heard in this episode. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned through the end to find out what that info is. And before we get into today's episode, I wanted to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Clankers. Go support us over there right now, and you can join us on a podcast. Next week's episode, we have our first ever roundtable where we brought on our Ace member club as well as our Eagle member club, and we had a podcast with them. You can be joining me right now on the mic in one of these podcasts, as well as get a ton of other value. Make sure you go check it out, patreon.com/Clankers. This helps us upgrade equipment. This helps us run our show. This allows us to build and grow and only continue to serve and help more disc golfers out there. So we really appreciate if you can go over there, check it out, and become a Patreon. But let's get it to our fantastic discussion with Xander right now.
What's going on, everybody? This is Xander Kirby, owner of Beacon Sports Management, and you're listening to Clankers.
Alrighty, everyone. You've heard him in the intro. Super excited to sit down and talk with Xander. Xander, I'm in the accounting world. I'm kind of a business guy, I like to think, and I'm super stoked for this episode. I think there's going to be a lot of knowledge that comes from this episode that maybe not everyone has known about before, and I think hopefully together we're going to be able to push the sport of disc golf in a positive direction moving forward. How are we doing tonight, Xander?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm on Eastern time, so it's 9:00, but I stay up till midnight, so I'm a late guy. So I appreciate you asking me on. I'm really excited to talk disc golf and business, which is where we need the sport to understand and evolve to get this place to the place we want it. I don't know if you watched, I'm sure you did, the Preserve this past weekend. That was a taste of where we're headed.
Yep.
That was a taste. It's not where we need it to be yet, but the Preserve is ideally a great direction of where the sport needs to go in terms of fan engagement, in terms of one of the best touches was the bleachers on hole 18. Super cool. There's so many things, like the way the players can kind of camp out, and so we're headed in the right direction. I'm happy to be a part of it in a small way, and so thank you for having me on so I can talk to the fans and of disc golf like I am. I'm a fan as well, and thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. This is something that I know not a lot of people in our space have really communicated before, so I'm looking forward to it as well. And maybe let's just camp here to Preserve just real quick. Could you go into any specifics of what were you seeing that gave you positivity and good thoughts of this is good now, but in 5 years from now, we want to look back at this and be like, why were we doing this? We're doing so much better now. Like what did you see that maybe the common disc golfer didn't see?
Talking about the preserve.
Yep.
Well, the first thing is you can tell that there's been some time, energy, effort, and real money spent on the course. Now, I say that to say, and I actually, Kale LaVisca is one of my favorite people to talk to when I go to tournaments and hang out with my players and other players. Kale is so intentional. He is so thoughtful with his design and his desired environment, right? That to me was one of the first things I noticed is pin positioning, right? Like it wasn't just thought about as a disc golf course, it was thought of as an event, event. So, even though what's the hole? I don't know what hole number it was, but the hole that the water really doesn't come into play. It's a par 3, and there was a lot of cool shots where you throw. It's probably like 390, I think, for the men. It was like 320 for the women, like dead straight, but the basket was kind of on like a little slope. If you remember in the final
Uh-huh.
round, Bradley Williams had that putt through the tree for birdie. So I think what hole was that? Like 8, like it was like 8 through 12, somewhere in there. But just like instead of Kale just having that as like, just a straight on shot somewhere else on the course, he used the pond for beauty. He used the pond. It wasn't really for difficulty. Like no play. I don't know if any player men went OB in the pond. Like I'm sure maybe somebody did, but it really wasn't in play, but it was for the event. It looked beautiful on camera. It was really cool spectators to watch, right? So that kind of thinking is where disc golf, is headed. USDGC to me is was the first tournament. And I've only been in the disc golf world for like 7 years, but I've gotten to know a lot of people in the game the last year or so. And Jonathan Poole, I've talked to Jonathan Poole a few times now, the TD of USDGC. They're like the first pioneers of like, let's think through this for a fan experience. Kale has done a great job with that at the preserve. I mean, gosh, I watched DGN. I really don't watch a ton of pros produce because I'm watching my players actively. I really like to do that as best I can. It's just a joy to watch the preserve on live. Like, man, it is so fun. I feel like I'm there. So I'm excited. I mean, like I think there was a couple thousand fans is what I heard.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere that they were actually selling tickets to the event, which has not been common practice at other disc golf pro tour events. Or am I off base with that?
I know they sold tickets to Skins match and they sold 200 of them, which is a midweek Skins match during the day. So that's pretty cool that they sold 200 of those. So I don't know. I'm sure they did sell tickets this time. They should sell tickets. Like, Champions Cup, they sold tickets for sure. In Champions Cup, man, that is going to be a special event once they iron out some things there. But disc golf is headed in a good direction. There's a few things that need to happen quickly to accelerate it, or I'm afraid I'm not going to say it's going to fizzle out, but we're going to miss the window is what my like small fear is. Meaning that I don't know this answer, but Todd, Mr. Rainwater is the money behind the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Did you know that? Yeah. So Jeff Springs, the CEO, right? And there's an investor, a guy who owns a good chunk of it, Todd Rainwater, I believe his name is. And he's a very, very wealthy family. And man, amazing stuff they've done with the Pro Tour. But how long is he going to be patient, not getting a return? I don't know. Probably not. I'm not going to think 10 years, right? So we need to get it to where it's profitable for the tour. When the only way to do that is to get more sponsors, and the only way to do that is to make the product better. The only way to do that is to players to invest in themselves so the product can get better. And the only way to do that is their sponsors invest in the players.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a circle that we all need to kind of like. We just sponsored me at Beacon in my marketing company Pure. We just sponsored one of the holes for the rest of the season. Did I need to do that necessarily? No, not necessarily. I want to play my part in helping the Pro Tour, which helps my players, which helps the sport, which hopefully gets us on ESPN and Body Armor and stuff like that.
So what does that window look like? Is that a window of popularity as if, all the new COVID players are coming in and here in, let's say 2 more years, couple more years removed from COVID, maybe a lot more of those people go back to doing other things. Is that the window? Is it more the return on investment window that we're looking at here?
I would probably lean more ROI because, as you know, when you play disc golf, like you're hooked. I have a marketing company called Pure Marketing that I have a couple businesses, but I have a marketing company, and 3 out of the 4 guys that work for me had not played disc golf until they start working for me. They play like 4 times a week now, dude, and they're obsessed. And because this is the thing about disc golf, why it's so special. You can play disc golf at almost any time for almost no amount of money. It's super inviting. Like, you don't have to be athletic. You don't have to be in shape, like, which is awesome, right? What sport do you not have to be that athletic and not have to be in great shape?
I
Um,
can't think of any. I was gonna say maybe pickleball, but you still kind of got to
you
move
kind of have
around a
to,
little
yeah,
bit.
you got to move around pretty good, which pickleball, I play with Calvin and Zach Melton. They're really good. And Madison Walker. Gosh, they're amazing. Um, but yeah, like disc golf is everything. You're outdoors, you're in nature. Doesn't cost very much money. I mean, literally, you could have $5 and go to play it again and get a used disc. So it is the most inclusive, open sport. It's beautiful when you throw the disc the right thing. It's like such a freeing, experience. So disc golf has everything you could dream about for a sport that can grow. Like, I've been using lacrosse as a good example. Okay, so when people ask me, like, what's our ceiling, what's our floor, I'm like, well, lacrosse in about 10 years has become extremely popular. Every high school has a team now. um, and lacrosse isn't that engaging. It's not that fun to watch. It's fun to play. People who play it like it, but it's not a very like fan friendly experience. It's pretty boring, honestly. So let's not use that. Let's go up to MLS. Okay, so like the Major League Soccer in America has spread pretty good, like wildfire, and that's a great fan experience. So I believe disc golf is going to land somewhere around MLS lacrosse, um, at the floor. Like, I believe it can, not the floor, but I believe that's a good target goal for at worst. Like, let's get to here. Then at best, a little bit more popular than MLS in 20 years, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very realistic possibility. And even if lacrosse is the floor, I mean, they just got a 10-year deal with ESPN. So now
Yep.
they're going to continue to get even more shown their way. And that's funny that you brought that up because I do have a buddy who's been playing lacrosse for 10 years now or something like that. And when he was getting into it, it was like, there's a lacrosse team in this town. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, we have to go to KC to play lacrosse. I was like, okay, that
Yeah.
makes a lot more sense. And it's one of those things also when you look at ball golf courses to disc golf courses, there's significantly more disc golf courses being opened
Yeah.
comparatively to ball golf courses being closed. And it's harder to watch ball golf. And I don't know how many of you guys out there watch ball golf, but honestly, it's so much more boring to watch a ball fly in the air than it is to watch a disc in the air. And if you're like me and your vision's really not that great, you
Yeah.
can
It's hard to
see the
find.
disc a lot easier.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I didn't even talk about disc golf, just like how easy it is to, relatively easy to put a course in. It's just so accessible. And so disc golf has everything going for it on the like grassroots side. What we really need to happen is what has happened in cities like Charlotte, cities like Augusta, is those clubs who, like any like any player they see that's out there playing, they give them a pamphlet. They say, hey, you got to come to the league. You got to go to this. My local club here in Columbia, we're not very good at that. And we don't have like, we should have like things to hand out to people and say, hey, join the Facebook group tonight and you'll see everything. Like, we're not intentional enough. If we want disc golf to grow from because the goal, right, is not for everyone to be a pro. That is not the goal. Okay. The goal is for people to get engaged in the local disc golf community on a consistent basis. That's the goal. Whether you're a rec player your whole life, I don't care. You want people who are active, going to putting league, joining the C tier, the local C tier, whatever. You can't do that if people don't know about it. And so that's the next step is, can the grassroots continue to guerrilla, like guerrilla marketing, guerrilla warfare? Like that's what we need really bad in our cities that disc golf's exploding. Look, like, why do you think Kevin Jones moved to Charlotte? Kevin Jones is who's, we work with Beacon, and he's a great guy. Why do you think Yuli just moved to Rock Hill, South Charlotte? Like, because there's endless practice in the off season, endless lessons, Yuli and Kevin go to their local putting league, dude, all winter. Guess who else is there? Big Germ. You don't think people want to come to putting league because they're local dudes? They're just dudes, like pros, or just dudes. Like, every city needs that regional or touring pro, because that's another thing to talk about, is there needs to be a second tour really bad. The Silver Series needs to become its own thing, and it needs to be a regional tour, because it needs to promote players who are really good regionally. Let's call it 990 rated bottom, maybe 985. Anyways, another story. But why do you think just Charlotte has done an incredible job? I mean, they got the most courses, I think, in the country, right? Like per
I'm
their
pretty
area.
sure you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and it is a big city, but it's not like LA. So Charlotte's done an incredible job. And then you got like another round disc golf who's, they're on TikTok, and people are seeing like, what's this? I want to go check it out. So it takes a community effort with the disc golf community. It takes an intentional effort. And we need every city that is pretty big in disc golf to kind of rally around that. So, and then, then the Pro Tour, what they're doing is good, but we need it. We just need it to be amplified quickly. And they're doing a good job. I'm not saying they're not. Like, I'm just speaking the obvious of what I think they already know is, it needs to be, for example, I say this vocally, sorry if any of the Pro Tour people are listening. First place for every Elite Series has to be minimum $10,000. Like, that cannot happen. Like Drew Gibson, when he beat Gannon, who we represent Gannon and work with Gannon, great guy. When he beat Gannon in Vegas, I think Drew won $6,800, if I remember right. That's a 4-day tournament. You're there for 7.
That's not even 1,000 a day.
Dude, are you right? And you don't think his Airbnb or whatever he's staying in, his food, he might broke even on that. No, he probably made an after taxes. Like he probably made $1,000, $1,500 profit to win an Elite Series. That's an issue. And I've got some players that talk about that. I'm going to leave their names kind of out of it, but not just my players, but other players that, I'm around with my athletes at Beacon, is they're not incentivized at all to do this crazy tour. It's not incentivized enough. Like, if they win a couple events or they win one, they're in the Pro Tour Championship, which is, for anyone listening, it's the big payday. It's like 25 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you win that. So why would you go and throw your arm out for 6 more tournaments when you're already going to get into the Pro Tour Championship, because you already won one tournament, when you're winning $3,200 as a female, and you spent $800 of it traveling in your van, and you don't want to get injured so you can make it to the end of the season? Because this is the other thing, Q. The Pro Tour needs to change this. Hopefully they will. Have you thought about this? Name all the major events within about an 8-week window towards the end of the season.
Jeez, you have Worlds, you have USDGC, you've got the last one, the Tour Championship, MVP, Green Mountain. I don't know if the Idlewild is included in that.
Maybe
close enough.
Des
Des
Moines.
Moines, yeah, that's a really good one.
So you've got like 6 or 7 big tournaments within 8 weeks of each other, 9 weeks, right?
Yeah, it really heats up over the back half of the year.
So why wouldn't Chris Dickerson take off 2 months to make sure he's healthy going into the back half? It's just, there's some things like that have to be thought through better. For example, for the average listener, I'm not sure if I'm thinking most of your listeners know about the Pro Tour, but
Yeah, I'd say
maybe not.
so. Learning about the Pro Tour. Maybe they're
Okay.
not, maybe they're
Here's
not,
some,
riding dies, but they
here's some great
probably have an
education.
idea.
Yeah. Here's some great education on it. So they start in Vegas, which is basically California. Then they go to Texas swing for like a month. And then they go to Arkansas, which is close-ish. Then we go all the way to Georgia. Wait, no, Georgia, then Arkansas, right? Sorry, Jonesboro's after Champions Cup. I
Because,
apologize.
yes, it goes
But then you
Texas.
go all the way to Georgia to go back across to go to the West Coast. How does that make any sense?
And since I'm in Kansas, I'm in Wichita. Here's the DDO controversy. It's 30, 40 mile per hour wind the whole time. Why are we playing disc golf in Kansas at the most professional level possible when it's going to be 30, 40 mile per hour winds? If they're here now, maybe you have 20. But that's just kind of normal for here, normal for Des Moines, normal for the Midwest. So if we're going to start out west, we should just stay out west.
That's how I feel. I don't understand. It's warm out there. Why don't we go Vegas right into the West Coast swing, like California, and then once we get into April, we go to Portland, and then we make our way back. And we, here's the problem: is when Minnesota's close enough to the Midwest, we can skip Minnesota, and then we go Texas for the month of May, and then we go back to the Midwest, go straight up Texas, go straight up, hit all the Midwest stuff, and then finish that back east. Like, it just makes too much sense. I haven't talked, my job, and we can kind of get into this, right? And we can talk about my story, but my job is to be a representative and an advocate for the players, with businesses, with brands, and with the tour. I feel like the players have to be careful of what they say, because they signed to play with the tour, as they should. It is a great tour. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has done a really, really nice job. Jeff Spring, everyone I've had interactions with there, from the camera guys, the photography teams, to Jeff Spring, really, really good for the majority of everything. Amazing. But like, there's just got to be some more intentionality if we want these athletes if we want our athletes and the athletes to be healthy and take the sport serious. So you see the performances like we saw at the Preserve. Bradley Williams, dude, that was incredible. Like, dude played flawless disc golf. And probably half the people watching didn't know who he was going to the tournament. Now, disc golf, like diehards, definitely knew who Bradley Williams was. He and Mason Ford are kind of like who we work with Mason, kind of like the Smoothie Kings, right? Like, they're super smooth, their form. So if you know disc golf, you know Bradley Williams for sure. But if you're like last 2 to 3 years, you probably really don't know Bradley Williams that much. And that's what's so crazy about disc golf now, for those listening who have jumped in the last couple of years, is when I started playing 7 years ago, and I got into the sport after I played college baseball and my career was coming to an end, and I wanted to keep throwing stuff. And so I was like, I saw a disc golf course. I was like, hey, that looks fun. When I started playing, I mean, it was Macbeth, Wysocki, and maybe another name. And then like 15 strokes behind was everybody else. And now, literally every week, there is a random name on lead card. There is a semi-known name on lead card. And then there's 2 big names. And anybody can win the tournament. I'm not going to say anybody. You're not going to get the 90th ranked guy in the world probably yet. Like in golf, like 1 through 100 can win. But we're now at the point where like top 40 has a chance. And top 30, top 25, top 20 for sure is like, dude, they're all in. Like, the top 20, 25 players all have a reasonable chance to win. Where 5 years ago it was like top 5 guys. So that's a good sign. Now that's a really good sign for competition and for how serious you have to take the sport. For a lot of your listeners, I'm not sure if they've seen this, but Paul Macbeth went to Jacksonville, Florida this offseason for a spring training. He went down for 2 weeks by him and Hannah, He took down all his discs, all these things, and he practiced and trained for 2 weeks straight to get ready for this beginning of the season. That's what it takes now to be, the best of the best, which is awesome. That's super cool.
I mean, you have to have that, right? If you want people to watch DGN, there has to be drama. There has to be excitement. It can't be Paul Macbeth is running away with a 10-stroke lead. Like I point, and this is no shade to Eagle at all, but when he won Vegas last year, it was the most boring tournament of all time because he was up by 10 after round 1 and it was over. There was no reason to continue to watch. And so something that I was thinking about while you were talking a little bit about the schedule, and I don't know how much you follow Formula One at all, but they're kind of having this issue where they have too many races on the calendar. And is disc golf at a point where there's almost too many pro tour stops to keep the players healthy, keep the players motivated, and allow for good quality disc golf? Because it's not as fun if you see a Chris Dickerson take a month off. It's not as fun if you see Kevin Jones take a month off. Like, is there a solution to that? Should we take a couple events away?
Well, I know one of my players, he is very into making the Elite Series elite and Silver Series or Silver Series. And so there's not too many, in my opinion, like I don't want to speak for my players at all. There's not too many Elite Series. I think there's like 14, right? Does that sound right? With majors, somewhere around that number. I think that number is right, like 13 to 15. Think about it. If the season's 8 months, you do 2 a month, that's 16. Like I like November through February off. I don't want Vegas actually in February. I think it's too early. I believe the season should start in March and end, early October, like mid, even through October is fine. Like October's a great month to play disc golf. It's beautiful. So I think the off season should be a true 4-month off season, November through February. The players need 2 months to rest, relatively rest, recuperate, enjoy family time, Christmas, right? Like you get Christmas, Thanksgiving, give them some of they've missed they've been on the road. So, and then, January, February, really start train. Like I think they should be training definitely in November, December. Don't hear me on that, but the intense training back in January, February. But I think like 13 to 15. See, this is what's interesting, right? Is I talk to all these players. So I'm speaking based on what I hear them say, but also like the business side. So let's go to this real quick is, my background a little bit. I know we talked about that is I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. It's the capital here, South Carolina, dead in the middle. Big baseball guy, big baseball recruit. I don't know. I don't really care, but top 50 recruit in the state, something like that. But in baseball, you don't really get full rides to D1 schools. They only have 11.7 or 8 scholarships. And so you kind of have to make the choice. We have really good baseball here in the Southeast. Do you want to go on almost a full ride to a Division II school, or do you want to take like a partial scholarship to a Division I school? And so I wanted to play as a freshman. I'm just competitive like that. And I didn't want to go sit on, kind of play for 2 years and then hopefully start your last 2. So I went to a pretty high-powered Division II school on pretty much a full scholarship. So I did that. Baseball was great to me. It was great. It paid for school. And so I got my degree in Bible actually. So I'm a strong Christian. My faith is very important to me. And so started doing that as my career, got married to my wife right out of college. Was making like no money, just super broke as a pastor, and started trying to think about ways to make extra money. And some guy at the church asked me if I could cut his grass. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for ways to make extra money. And so I did that. And I was 23 at the time. And next thing you know, I got like 10 customers and stuff wasn't going great at the church. So I dipped out of that and started doing lawn care full time. And so that business is in year 6. I've got 22 employees now with that business. And God's been really good to me there, and it's been really fun. And that's where I learned business. I'm actually like an influencer in the landscape space now. So I've got like 19,000 followers on Instagram, and I speak at conferences and all this crazy stuff. But really amazing opportunities. And so, anyways, landscaping has been my predominant business. Started playing disc golf right after college. Like I said, I played baseball, and the church I worked at had a great course next door to it. I saw the baskets. I was like, hey, I need to keep in shape. Let's do it. And so I started playing disc golf because there's a course. I'm like a pretty well-known course in the South Carolina, actually, literally next door. Like, could throw a disc from my office and hit like hole 17. So that's how I started playing disc golf. So that was 2015. And just started playing and enjoying it. And didn't start playing tournaments immediately because I wanted that competitive college thing I had back, and just really liked it a lot. And fast forward, like I said, landscaping business is going great, but marketing was always my passion. Like sports management, I studied that for 2 years before I switched to Bible in college. So sports marketing, sports management was always kind of my thing. Love sports. I have season tickets to Carolina basketball, all that stuff. And so, and obviously baseball, I almost kind of, that was my thing. So, gosh, I met Yuli at a local C tier. Actually, he got eliminated from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. What year was that? 2020? He got eliminated, and he didn't want to stay up there. He got eliminated on like a Friday. And so his nearest tournament was this local C tier I was playing in. So I remember like at 10 o'clock at night, my friend who was the TD was like, hey, look who just joined the tournament for tomorrow. It's like a 1-day C tier, right? And it was Yuli. I was like, dude, you got to put me on his card. Because I was starting to think about now I have a marketing company called Pure Marketing. We were on hole 15 this week at the preserve, if you saw that. I was starting to get my second business going for marketing. And so I was like, I really want to talk to Yuli about how to help him with this social media marketing. And so I've been dying to meet Yuli, obviously super cool watching Jomez and stuff. And this is end of 2020. So a while, October 2020. So I get on Yuli's card. He and I hit it off instantly. Go to lunch during the mid round, swing, right? And I just started talking about, man, like, you're about to blow up, dude, if you do these few things on social media with Jomez, and if you do this. And if you think about it, 2021 is when it's not my doing. He just like got smart, really smart. And I was like, do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. And he already had so many ideas going. He's such a smart guy. And we became friends, basically. Yuli and I became friends. And so throughout 2021, started texting him and just, praying for him and checking in on him. He's also a man of faith as well. And so he and I just hit it off, man. And about October of 2021, my marketing company, we had just launched last summer, 2021 summer. And I was trying to figure out how to fit athletes into my marketing company. Like, how can I help consult athletes and stuff? And it just didn't fit, like it didn't fit because we were doing like businesses and branding and so one day I'm just driving home, and I have a disc golf course. I have 10 acres here in my house, and I have built my own course. And so I go outside to throw some discs, and I'm just thinking about my thing, and all of a sudden it hits me. I'm like, dude, sports management, or like that's what marketing is, basically, for athletes. And I manage people. I have 20 something employees. And so I called Yuli and was like, hey, disc golf really needs this. This is what I love to do. What do you think of? Like, I like to run ideas by him because he knows the heartbeat of the industry. He goes, I've heard whispers of another company about to launch. He said, I think it's a really good idea. You're really good at business and you love people. And I love serving people. My heart is serving people in general. He said, and then I learned a lot of the deals and negotiating through my influencer stuff with landscaping. I have like 9 sponsors for my landscape company. So I know how to write all that contract and negotiating. And I was like, man, this just makes way too much sense. So started dreaming up and preparing Beacon in October. So we spent October, November, December, and we launched in January. So that's where that comes from. Now I play local, like open. now. I'm like I said, 963 rated, I think, but I love playing, just having fun. And, but just, business is really my passion, helping people feel valued through the business world and feel like I love helping people just realize their value, their potential, and just helping them, see the possibilities that they don't see for themselves.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So much to unpack right there. I'm going to try to go quick for a couple of points and then get to the
Sure.
next question. That's super sick that you're able to take that, just, mowing a couple of lawns, then creating a business out of it. And I feel like gaining that knowledge there, I mean, had to help immensely
Yeah.
to where you are now. And so then, kind of continuing down that path and getting to know Yuli, and I imagine he was one of the first people who kind of came on with you with Beacon, right?
Yeah, he was the first one. He actually said, I don't know if you remember saying this. He said, "Get me a deal. All these people have promised me they can get me a deal." He said, "You get me a deal, and I'll go with you." And I got him a deal pretty quickly. So that was like his little test for me, and we laugh about it now. He and I are very good friends. Very good friends.
Nice. And so it kind of brings me to the, obviously I can tell, you love helping people. And I think
I
that's
love it.
something
Yeah, I
that
love
this
helping people.
sport needs more of. And that's exactly what we want to do as a podcast, right? We want to, the kid who's listening to this for the first time, I want him or her to be the most successful disc golfer they can be. And like you said earlier in the episode, if that's being a lifelong rec player and having fun on the weekends, that is freaking fantastic, because 99.9% of disc golfers are not going pro. They're not going to get over 950 rated. They're not going to be on the pro tour. So how can you have the most fun? How can we grow this sport? And how can doing all of that help out the pro guys and gals out there? How can they win a tournament and get at least 10 grand, not barely make 1,000 after taxes and all that stuff? And so how does Beacon, and yourself particular, what are you doing that separates you from the competition, and how are you serving people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we're doing our services are, I act as their agent and some of them their business manager. So not a tour manager like Ricky has Ari, which everyone knows Ari if you've ever watched Ricky. That's a unique situation. He the way he it's a great thing for him, right, to have that. But I don't think a lot of players, like, I don't think every player needs a tour manager. I think if you're married or if you have a serious girlfriend who can handle some of that task for you, or even like a traveling partner, some of that stuff. But if you have an agency and you have a bit, like, the most of the problem is the business side. Like, for me, I talk to the player and say, "Hey, what's your goals?" That's my first thing. Your goals is what matters. If you don't want to be this, then don't be this. If your goal is to be not just well paid, I have a little phrase that it should be 3 F's. Every decision you make should be about function, fit, and finances. Meaning, do you function? Let's say it's a sponsor that we are analyzing an offer to a player. Are you going to fit well in the company? Is the seat that you're going to do, they're going to fit inside the company, function well? And then does the money make sense? So, for example, if you join Amazon, like anyone listening right now, if you go work at Amazon and it's a dream, Amazon's your dream company, but the only position they have open is IT, and you know nothing about computers, it doesn't matter how much money they offered you or it's your dream company, it's a bad function fit. Like, it's not a good function for you. So it really needs to be all 3 to be a sweet spot. And so for my players, I say, I'm here to bring you deals that I think make sense, and you say yes or no. I am never going to convince a player to do something. That's not my job. My job is to say, here's what we have on the table based on your goals you set out and told me, and what I think, if they give me some leeway to say, give them some input, consult a little bit, and I think this is a good fit for your brand or your desires. But I will never make a player say yes. Kevin Jones, we had 2 deals for him early in the season that were pretty great money wise, and he's like, they're not a great fit for me. Okay, off the table. Calvin, we got Flight Factory, which was a great fit. He had no retail sponsor before this year. VII. If you've noticed his amazing jerseys, Calvin was pretty much wearing like just kind of like an Innova polo before, and now he's got these incredible like marble. I designed those with my marketing team and VII in conjunction. Because Calvin, if anyone knows Calvin, he loves rock hunting, and so it's kind of like that, Midwest, like that's where that idea came from, was like the rock desert theme, right? So those things are insane. They've sold, I think he sold over 1,000 jerseys or 800 jerseys or something. So like Calvin, none of his fans had access to anything to support him before. So now through Beacon and me and working with Calvin, like we just are here to help the fans see what it's like to live through what they're looking like and living through on the tour. And, Calvin, for example, again, just talking about Calvin for a second, he loves signing autographs. It's funny, a lot of people think he's like a little shyer, but he like stays until the last autograph is signed. So for him, he wanted that. He didn't know how to get those fans to feel closer. So I just came in and said, hey, I got a bridge. You're here. Our goal is here. I can help you bridge that gap. So at Beacon, that's our goal. Lighting the way is our phrase. We're trying to light the way to show you possibilities so that people can see you better and you can see opportunities better. And that's our goal. We work with just people, so people know, we work with the Manahano sisters. We work with Mason Ford, Kyle Klein, awesome kid, Cynthia Ricciotti, Maria Oliva, who was the first female I signed. I told people she was going to be a top 10 player this year. In December, I told people this on record. I said, you guys are nuts. Maria Oliva is one of the best female disc golfers. She will be, by the end of this coming year, I said she'll be a killer. And she's had like I think she's had maybe the most top 12 finishes on tour this year. She's definitely most improved player. There's no question she's most improved. Her and Cat Merch, most improved for sure. Maria Oliva is awesome, amazing human being. Kevin Jones, Gannon, love Gannon Burr. So I and Zach Melton is our player coordinator. I'm missing somebody, I'm sure I am. Yuli, obviously. But for me, we're not trying to have like 20 disc golfers. We want to serve, we kind of handpick and make sure that they fit what we're trying to do, which is, like you said, impact the disc golf community. Really nice people, really good people. We want, that's kind of my thing, is like, we want to treat people well. So anybody that's a little edgy with that, like, that's not really a great fit for what we're doing at Beacon. Not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, really want, like, if you look at our roster, like, think about it, we have bubbly people. Stacey Haas, right? Stacey Haas went out and won a silver series. She went out this weekend at Preserve. I think she was in 7th after the first round. She's like 19, dude. She's so young. Like, she's going to be a killer. Stacey is so good. Great human. One of the nicest people I know. So we're really trying. We have one other person we're looking at right now that we think it could be a big signing that we're hoping to wrap up this week. But again, like, I'm just trying to help the players get the value they deserve financially, fit with companies that make sense. Obviously we want outside sponsors. We want the body armors. We want all that to come to the sport. I've had conversations with some big companies. One company that I've been talking to for a while is a massive apparel company. Not one of the big five,
Okay.
but they're a secondary big five. They're
Okay.
pretty big. So they're very interested. There's a lot of like nibbling on the hook right now. So anybody who's telling you that like Nike's calling, they're not, I don't think they're being truthful. I don't ever overpromise my players. Like, that's one thing. I'm super transparent, super honest, super real with them. Here's what I think you can get from Innova, from Discmania. Here's what I think your value is. If a player comes to me and says, I think I deserve $1 million contract, I'll be like, no, you don't. Because if I tell them I look terrible when I say, yeah, you can, and then they get offered 100,000, I'm going to be honest with your market, what I think your market value is. And, I talk to a lot of the owners of the companies. I talk to the team managers every day. I've got a player on every team, I think now. Pretty sure I have one on every team now. So am I missing one? No, pretty sure I have one on every team. So I know them all. And I'm not willing to risk relationships with these people to make you feel a little bit better about yourself. But these players are worth a lot. This is like something that we can get into this part if you want, but It's interesting. The value stuff is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Vinny is such an incredible marker of what your company can do when partnering with the right players, because this was somebody you could not find on Instagram. Trust me, we've been trying to get Vinny on the show for a long time. We could not do it. And then just the complete transformation, and you just become so much more valuable. And I think some of the signings in the 2021 offseason going into 2022 show that having a good social media game can get you more money at the end of the day, because you're able to be more profitable to those companies. At least that's my outside look coming in. But with that said, let's kind of like you're saying, let's transition to those signings a little bit more. What is the biggest challenge that you face when you're having discussions with maybe outside sponsors? Maybe it's the manufacturers. What is the biggest challenge that you and Beacon are facing right now?
Well, the first one is we don't control the source, meaning if I'm Mike Trout is the best baseball player in the major leagues, okay? He plays for a team that plays for the best league. So he works for the source. He's in the source. I have zero control over the source, which is the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So I have to sell the company on not just my player, but what the Pro Tour is going to do to promote said player. Does that make sense? So it's not that the Pro Tour is not doing a good job. It's meaning that I have to speak on behalf of my player and for the Pro Tour. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Can you maybe share some examples, I guess?
For example, let's say like Yuli is almost at 100,000 followers. He's at like 85,000 on Instagram. Across all of his channels, he's at like 160. Okay. He's got plenty of followers. He's selling plenty of product. Trust me. I know it's not like unbelievable numbers. I can show all of that to a big sponsor and saying, if you give him Celsius drink, okay, like an energy drink, he's going to sell these things. Okay. They look at the data, the numbers, the person, and they go, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. We'll pay him $50,000 a year to be our rep. Okay, but where is he going to go be on? Where is this going to be seen? Then I have to go, okay, here's where this is going to be at, which I have no numbers, no control, no way to like position him. I can't go, okay, here's position. The schedule for the Major League Baseball is 162 games in this many cities. This is what's going to be on TV. The Pro Tour is going to change every year. I have no clue how to say, he might be at this event. It might be in this part of town. It might be in this part of the country. I don't exactly know how many viewers they have. Now, that's one reason why I partner with the Pro Tour. So hopefully I can get some more information so that I want to help the Pro Tour. The Pro Tour, the more I can help it, the more it helps the players. It's perfect for everybody. But see what I'm saying? It's a variable that I don't necessarily control. And it's very important to an outside sponsor because they're like, okay, well, for example, lead card, feature cards.
Yes.
Who makes that up? And how, like, shouldn't it be technically, well, this person finished podium last week, so they're going to be on feature card. So how am I supposed to sell to this company? Hey, he's going to be on 3 feature cards this year, when they're just like, they're making the decisions up as they go. So there's a lot of variables that make it difficult to not just sell the sponsor on the player, but where the player is going to be positioned throughout the year on the tour. Does that make more sense?
Oh, yes, that's crystal clear now, because the way you put it that way, you don't have any control. I mean, let's look at DDO round 2, for example. You have James Conrad, world champ, and then you have arguably 3 people not a lot of people have heard about. I know Nolan. We've had Nolan on the show. He lives in the same town as us. Nobody else probably watching outside of Wichita or Kansas knew who Nolan was. And we love Nolan. And he's a great player, but nobody knew who he was. So it's not like you can use that and be like, yeah, we're guaranteeing him a lead card spot, because even, you've got Jomez for lead card, and then you've got like Gatekeeper for the second card, and then you have maybe a third or fourth card getting filmed also. But how many people are watching those cards post-produced?
That's my point. Again, something I don't control is the quality of their filming, which they're all good. Like, don't hear what I'm saying. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. They're all great, but it's hard to, what if the sponsor goes, well, they don't really film like the way I would want. Where MLB, they have the same film crews. They have they know these sponsors know what they're going to get for their money. And right now in disc golf, it's a little bit unknown what ROI. Like, for example, this is just a good example. I didn't know what holes I was getting at Preserve for Beacon and Pure. I didn't even, not only did I not know the holes, I didn't even know if there was going to be on the front of the tee pad or at the green. So I didn't know until like 2 days before. And I didn't have a say in it. They did it. And that's fine. Like, it was cool. Like, hole 15 was awesome hole. That's the one Simon threw in, right? And so, like, my peer marketing, it was great. Like, but what I'm saying, I'm just another example of the variables. A company, if they're looking at their marketing budget for the year, one, they have to decide that at the end of the year when it's the off season for disc golf, not optimal timing for earmarking funds. Like, this is not good timing because we're not playing disc golf right now. In end of December, 1st of January. And then two, there's a lot of variables that when it's a new and emerging sport, it's like, do you want to risk that, or do you want to put the ad spin where you know it's going to work? So it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly difficult to do. And it's one of those things where you almost have to have that one company that takes a chance and they get an ROI. And then I guarantee once you get the 1-2 companies that see a hit, more are going to just want to pour into the sport. And it's hard to get that first one to commit to you. Absolutely.
It looks like there's been a few, Canna, that company Canna's like outside, like not a normal disc golf company. Trying to think, there's a couple more I've seen. I mean,
shoot, Arby's did a couple Jomez Pro collaborations.
And and then at Champions Cup, the grill company, they sponsored hole 5, and that was cool. So there's some traction. We just need, like you said, we really need the domino to fall quickly.
And I think the thing that's special about disc golfers, that I would like to think at least, is that they're a group that will support what makes the sport better, if that makes sense. Like, if a company comes in, like, I know when Arby's came in, everyone was like, we have to go to Arby's. That's where we're going after league. Like, everyone was like, if you're willing to show support for our sport, then we will go show support for you, which I think is really unique to disc golf, because you don't see that in the MLB. Mike Trout can come out tomorrow and be like, everyone needs to go drink Body Armor or Celsius or whatever his sponsor is. And maybe the diehard Mike Trout fans will be like, I'm switching over from Gatorade. But not everyone in the sport is immediately going to stop and be like, I need to do that, because it's critical to the sport's future growth, which is so unique.
The question is, how long does that last for, that grassroots love? Which none of us know. But we have a lot of positives. Like I said, Preserve, Champions Cup, amazing. Like, and I could go on and on. There's some really good signs of tournaments where they're headed, but the elites need to be elite. They need to be elite. They need to be like the Preserve every time.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that crazy off season that happened last year. I mean, I tried to tell the listeners, I hope you guys are still listening out there. I've tried to say, this is not going to happen every off season. I've got to be right, correct? I mean, there's no way we're shelling out 10 mil every single off season.
Well, I don't know if it's the money. It's just like so for example, this off season, Calvin, contract is up at the end of October. Kyle, I can just speak for my players. There's several players that are either on 1-year deals all the time, or their long-term deal is coming up. So there's not that many of that this offseason. Last offseason, we had a few free agents, Kevin Jones, right? We had a lot of people, but there was also Ricky and Dickerson who ripped up their contract and went somewhere else. So it made it like way huger. I mean, you got 2 of the top 5 players in the world who changed companies. What year has that ever happened? I'm trying to remember back. Did Macbeth leave the same time as anybody else when he left for Discraft? I don't remember, but anyways, so I think that's when Ricky went to Innovas, when he left, right? So maybe they left. That was the other time. But anyways, like, yes, there's not going to be as many this off season. Again, I know I have been privileged to know a lot about like what players are open and like coming open. This off season, I don't think we'll have the massive splashes like last one, but it's going to have a lot of ripples. I think a lot of good, solid players are open this offseason, and we will see where disc golf really is with the mid-level player contracts now. Fans would be shocked. This is where well, be careful, but they would be shocked at some of the contracts that players that you've heard a lot this season are on, frankly. You hear Macbeth's 10-year, $10 million. You hear Ricky's 4-year, $4 million. You hear some of these Dickerson, whatever his was announced, like a 4-year value up to $1 million. So it wasn't cash, but it was value based, which is great for him. Still a solid deal. You hear these things and everybody's like, oh man, if I see you on Lead or Chase, you must be making that kind of money. If you're competing with them, dude, it's such a big valley right now, like in the middle of the top players and what they're making, which is life-changing money. Your kids are changed forever. And then your 25th to 30th ranked player who's still like, they're going to make the Pro Tour championships. Like, dude, if you make the Pro Tour championships, you're a beast of a disc golfer. And you might be making $1,000 a month guaranteed. You might be making 2,200. It's crazy. You might be making zero. There's a couple top players I know of, not necessarily on Beacon, that are making zero guaranteed a month. So
that's not a good way to live. I mean, you can't, I don't know how you can play good disc golf with the stress of how am I going to eat tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me be frank. Like, they're making zero guarantee, but they're making really nice bonuses and they're getting a stipend to travel. They're making money enough to live on and be okay and comfortable. But is it worth it when you're 26 or is it worth it only when you're 20? And what happens if you don't win a $10,000 first place purse and then you get the bonus from your manufacturer to get you up to like 15 or 13,000? What happens if that doesn't happen for 2 years in a row? Like it said the other day, Bradley Williams, it was his biggest purse ever, right? I think it was like $8,500 or something. He's been playing disc golf a long time. It's just, he should have, I mean, it's tough for now. That's why it's important for us to be in the game, because I'm seeing a lot of companies wake up to the values that these players have. And I'm seeing them being more open to paying them numbers, because now think about this, Q, is like before Beacon, and there's another company out there that's very respected, Schaefer, we're in this game, and in the DGPM as well. What the players were just calling the team manager like, hey, I played pretty good this year. You gonna give me a new deal next year? Like, that's bizarre. Like, it's just a bizarre thing. And so the team manager who's been rooting for this player all year then has to go, well, actually, you didn't play that good, because his job is to get the best deal for the company he represents, or she. Actually, you didn't play that good, so we're only going to renew your contract or on a 1-year deal. So again, the player has to go out there feeling like every week I need to play good or I'm going to be off the tour next year. Like, it's just not healthy. I'm actually really big on starting contract negotiations a little bit earlier for my athletes, for the statement I said earlier, where the 6 of the biggest tournaments are like 8 weeks in between each other, or 9 weeks. And what player wants to think my 9 weeks is going to make or break my entire season, and I might not have a contract after these 9 weeks, especially the 9 weeks of the big tournaments. Like, it's just not healthy. It's not good for players. It's not fair to them to then sign let's say they switch companies and they had no idea they were going to have to switch, let's say you go from Innova to Dynamic. Like, Ricky signed late, really late. And that is asking a lot to learn a brand new bag in 4 weeks. And so it's just, the players just have not been treated well, is not what I'm trying to look for, but they have not been valued the way they should. One of the big things I talk about, Q, to my players and all the companies that I'm talking to about their contracts is these players are not just athletes that throw discs. They're also marketing machines for you. So, for example, Val Mandujano, okay, she's got to be in the top 3. I mean, I don't know how her and Paige are running away with Player of the Year, right? Is that like who
I
else would
mean,
you?
if Kristen was playing, she would. Her
If
worst finish is third. But yes, those two are running. I would say Val is the player of the year right now, in my opinion, over Paige.
yeah, I don't see how not, right? Unless Paige goes on a tear right now
Yeah.
and wins, like, but yeah, Kristen, you have to put an asterisk. She just hasn't been able to play because of COVID and then being overseas. Kristen is an amazing player. Evelina is, when she gets that putt down, like the women's game. I did a little Facebook, Instagram story the other day. Some people have been asking me on Instagram, Beacon's Instagram, why are you signing so many women? Like you've got big name guys. Why are you? I had a couple people like, not being mean, like they were curious. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She loves disc golf. She's almost 3.5. I want her to have. I get goosebumps thinking about this. She's my world. Like I'm very close with my daughter, and I want her to have heroes to look up to as if she chooses to play disc golf. The women have not been valued in the sport of disc golf like they should have. And I'm not a big like women's, like that's not what I'm trying to get into, the women's rights, like any of that, like women, like it's just a fact. The women's game is arguably more important for the amateurs to watch than the men's, because they throw like your advanced high intermediate players, men players especially. So when you watch Val and Paige and all these amazing women play, you're like, oh, I could actually do that. And so, or I not do that exactly, they're way better, but like you can compare yourself a little bit more realistically than watching Kevin Jones and Calvin throw 600 feet, and Kyle Klein and Gannon, right? Those 600 feet, which is 10, 20 people in the world can do. So I'm really big on the women's game is awesome to watch. First off, like how much better it's gotten in 3 years is crazy. 2, I really want to be a person that helps the women's game grow. Look, they can only get 48 people to show up to Elite Series right now. The men, if you opened it up, 300, 200 at least. So anyways, that's where I like at Beacon. I'm really big on the women's game growing.
I mean, that's great, man. And that's something that, we have always tried to play our part. How can we get more women on the podcast? How can we continue to prop up that side of the sport? And I think a fantastic start to that has been more competition against Paige. Because when Paige, like I was talking about with Eagle earlier, wins by 10 strokes every weekend, it's not fun to watch that disc golf. And so the competition getting a little bit closer. And also, I think the biggest sneaky difference is that when they play in the morning and you can wake up Saturday, Sunday morning, flip on FPO coverage, chill out for a couple hours when it's done, and then go turn on the MPO coverage. That is the best way to watch their disc golf, because if you have to sit there and let's say you start watching at 1, that's when coverage turns on. And now here it is like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And now all of a sudden the FPO is coming on and they're already halfway through. You've missed half the action. And you're not really motivated to continue to watch. You've been sitting there all day. I think that change has been massive for women's disc golf.
I agree with that. And like you said, Paige, her and Katrina, dominated for 4 or 5 years. You see Paige is that gap has narrowed quick. I mean, Ella Hansen, y'all watch out. That girl is a problem. She is a problem. Kat Murch, Maria Oliva. Obviously, I'm going to name some Beacon girls, but I think I have a stout lineup of women, like the Manhano sisters. Bro, they're not even 25. Like, they're all like Stacy is like they're so young, dude. Like, they're so young. And Paige made a comment about that this weekend. She was like, "I'm feeling it." She's like, "I'm feeling these girls come behind me now." And I don't know if you heard her interview. You should go listen to it. It's pretty interesting. But I know I'm missing one other killer girl. I know I'm missing
I
one.
mean, you have Missy
American.
Gannon up there all the time.
Yeah, Missy's super consistent. Like Missy's always going to be around for sure. And if you leave the door open, Missy Gannon will walk through it. Like she's very talented, and she could not be a more nice human being. I caddy for Maria several times, and Cynthia and Missy is super kind. But Maria Oliva is, I'm telling you guys, like I've been saying this, you watch next year, like she's going to have a great finish to the year, and watch out if she doesn't come up and win one of these silver series or something. She probably, but you give her another 8 months of what she's done. She's going to be the Val of next year if she's not careful, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, going back to that, yeah, I'm really excited about the women's game for sure. What else were we talking about, Q?
We were just kind of talking, about manufacturers, contracts, those kinds of things. And so I think one of the last questions I want to get in before we get out of here, I know we've been going for a hot minute, is which companies, if you're able to discuss, which companies do you think are positioning themselves for improving their team and improving the quality of life for their players the most right now? Because there's a big argument amongst the disc golf Reddit, people on the course. I mean, look at what Innova did last offseason. They had arguably one of the worst off seasons in a very long time, followed closely by Prodigy losing Chris Dickerson. And you see Discraft continue to add. You see Trilogy and getting Matty O, as well as getting Ricky back, and then Val, Kona, Mason. Like which companies are positioning themselves to have sustained success compared to some companies who may still be living in the old days?
Yeah. Well, I would have had a different answer to this 6 months ago. First off, let's give Eric McCabe. What people don't understand, like in the last offseason, everybody was riding with half of like this. They saw it with one eye. So for example, Prodigy. How smart do they look 6 months later?
I mean, they have Gannon. If they have Gannon for the long term, then they look good.
Okay. They have Gannon. Gannon signed through next year. Gannon he announced it publicly. I think it was a 2-year deal. He announced the extension, right? So I can say that. But Gannon, they love Gannon, and Gannon loves Prodigy. But Alden Harris has played very well.
Yes.
Gavin Babcock has played.
Yes, he's come on really well.
Okay. So Mr. Sullivan, Michael Sullivan, the owner of Prodigy, very smart guy, very, very kind guy. Prodigy is one of the best team cultures. I've been to their team dinners, invited by Mr. Sullivan. They have Kale. People always forget they have Kale. If Kale was still playing as active as he wanted to, Kale is still a top 30, top 40 player.
I mean, Kale has the longest cash record of anyone out there, and he just barely got it broke earlier in the year. Dude's a killer.
Kale is still very good, but you got obviously Kevin is their face of the company right now, him and Gannon, and Kevin is still there. Kevin's going through a little bit of a stretching, but Kevin has finished match play. He did great. Was it Beaver State? He just had a high finish at a tournament a couple of Elite Series ago. Can't remember which one, or Silver Series. But like Kevin's had a good month or so. Like Kevin's a great player. But like what I'm trying to get at is everybody gave Prodigy crap because Katrina and Dickerson. Okay, and I'm not like, again, I have players with everybody. That's one reason why I did what I did, is I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm a homer for one company or the other. I believe that Katrina, what she wanted to get paid, Prodigy said, here, all right, I got to be careful, but this is what I'm trying to say. The fact is this with the players, and I've explained all this to my players, because it's not a league like the major leagues where you're getting paid the veterans minimum, and if you play amazing, it benefits the team and it benefits the league. That doesn't happen in disc golf. Okay, you can play incredible, but if you don't sell a single disc, it does not matter how good you played. Doesn't matter at all. So because you're Innova, they're all of them are in the business of selling product. Guess what? The MLB, the NHL, that is not the only core of their business. It's not just ticket sales. It's advertising sales. Innova doesn't sell advertising, right? They have their mainstream, every manufacturer's mainstream is selling baskets, bags, and discs. So that is what they do. They don't have other streams of income really, right? Which is kind of like interesting. You would think that one of them would dominate YouTube and maybe a player's value to them, like Luke Humphreys. Okay. Luke Humphreys' value to Prodigy is massive because of his media. Massive. So he's one of the only players that has the only player I can think, and Simon as well. Okay. So I'm going to guess that Prodigy looked at Katrina's sales. I've not talked to Katrina. I haven't talked to Mr. Sullivan about Katrina. I don't represent Katrina, but you would have to think that they looked at the sales, they looked at the numbers she wanted and says, these don't add up no matter if you're a world champion. And that sucks. Like they didn't want to lose Katrina, obviously. And then somebody goes, well, you know what? We need DGA. We need a world champion to help our sales. So we're willing to take that risk. Makes total sense. So that's the problem right now with this discussion about like what company you asked, like what company do I think is pouring into players more and positioning itself? Everyone wants to say Discraft because they have the best lineup, quote unquote, right? Like they have the deepest lineup. They definitely do. And let's give my boy Yuli props. You know what team cap? Okay, so people who don't know listening, team captains are sort of like a scout for the companies. Okay, so they're like watching players up close, getting to know them, and then they make their recommendation to the team manager, say, hey, I think we should sign this player. Or, hey, I don't think we should. I don't think they're a good fit. Yuli has made a great team. He and Bob Julio at Discraft have done Bob Julio is a great guy, by the way. Just talked to him last week about a player. Great. Oh my God, what they've done is incredible. Oh my gosh, Adam, I mean, you go down the list. Chandler Fry's had a solid year. People sleeping on Chandler Fry, dude. He has had a solid year. Has he won anything? Has he finished a lot of top tens? No. I would love to pull his stats up and don't do it right now, but he's finished top 20, 25, 30 a lot. So he's played very well, but their roster is so deep. But they are also maybe the best at selling discs custom. They've got Resistance, they've got Ledgestone, so they can pump out these discs that are selling the players. Other companies are not set up for that. And they honestly need to be. They need to take a note out of that book, a page out of that book, excuse me. But so you ask, like, maybe hopefully this gives you and like not just you, but like the listeners more perspective. It's a little bit deeper than what it looked like. Innova, for example, yes, Ricky chose to leave. Let's not say Ricky left. Ricky chose to leave early. And so is that really their fault? No. What else? Who else? They did lose Val. I just talked to someone in their management team last night about that. That was probably not a great idea to let her walk, Val's on our team and I couldn't think better about her and Alexis and Mason, but they made a couple of decisions that are head scratching. I wouldn't say it was nearly as egregious as it felt this offseason. Like it felt that way, right? Because it kept like each day some big news story was coming out and went boom, 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 boom. And so and it felt like Innova was always a part of the conversation. So it felt like the dominoes were stacking up on them, but they've still got a pretty nice lineup. Like now they need to, Calvin, that would be a big loss if Calvin didn't re-sign with them. That's all I can say about that. But I believe Innova is smarter than people think. What other company? I mean, like let's just look. Like I said, like Prodigy, they look like Prodigy. I think people should shut up after what they've done. I mean, I really do. And like Alden Harris, Gavin, Kevin, Gannon, Like Mr. Sullivan signed Gannon. He saw this before anybody. I obviously signed Gannon early this offseason, and I'm not taking credit for that, but I watch film on the players. Like I study them, and I think this guy is going to be this, and I think I can help them. Gannon, Maria were two of my first calls. I said, Gannon, I think you're going to be, I remember calling him and saying, I think you're going to be finish top 5 on lot this year. He's like, I think so too. I've been working my butt off. And now we know as he comes out of, God, he's up for player of the year if he wins an Elite Series.
And he's still somehow perpetually 16. Like he just
turned 17,
20 years ahead of him to if you were pegging somebody who's going to be the next Paul, who's going to be the next Ricky, I don't know how you don't say Gannon.
I don't know either. I also think that people forget Kyle Klein is 19.
Yeah.
About to be he might have just turned 20. And Kyle Klein lost in the playoff at USDGC, won an Elite Series last year.
Should have won 2.
Probably should have won 2. And if he didn't have a little gap this weekend in that middle of the holes, he probably finished his second, if not first. So he's right there, and he's going to have a strong second half. A lot of people don't know. I'm allowed to say this now. Kyle had no one knows this, so this is inside information. Kyle had a huge tear in his throwing thumb.
Really?
Until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So his thumb has been bothering him the whole season. So he just got healthy about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was just like a cut that wouldn't heal, like from throwing a lot. So that's why he was inconsistent throwing the disc. So why he started slow a little bit.
That explains a ton, because I went into this year saying I don't understand how Adam Hammes and Kyle Klein are not top 5 players in points next year, winning events throughout the year, and seeing both of them, but Kyle in particular, because that's who we're talking about, get off to that slow start. I was like, I'm about to completely eat my words. Like the way this guy was looking last year, being on a 1-year deal, what's going to happen to him next? Is he going to be forced to move on from Discmania because they make him oh man, I can't remember what they call
Sky Team.
Sky Team. Yes. Thank you. Is he going to go from Sky Team with them to now he's off the team the next year because of a not so good start? So, that's really good information. And you can see literally point shoot, as soon as he's healthy again, here he is back on league cards. Here he is competing again.
Let's just one comment on Kyle from this week. And Kyle Klein cannot be a better young kid, dude. Like, so respectful, such a good guy. If you watch the way he was throwing this weekend, you remember Kyle is one of those guys that kind of looks like effortless when he throws, right? Mm-hmm. He wasn't able to do that. If you watch any coverage before this last month or so, he looked like he was barely throwing the disc this weekend. And he looked exactly like Kyle from last year to me. I know I work with Kyle. I understand people are going to roll their eyes, but I'm a realist. You've heard me keep it real on this episode for sure, right?
Yep.
And Kyle looked normal this weekend. I don't see that slowing down now that he's healthy. But, he's also dealt with some stuff off the course a little bit. Discmania, they promoted him to Sky Team. And that didn't exactly come with a lot of details of what that meant. And so how hard is that to get promoted to the dream team you've been wanting, and then you're in a little bit of limbo? So that's not easy. There's a lot of things. These players deal with a lot of stuff. They deal with a lot. They're traveling. They're driving 16 hours. They're trying to get rested. They're trying to deal with contract stuff. That's why, again, kind of to wrap this up, the player agent, I think a lot of people not a lot, but some people rolled their eyes, right, with agents and disc golf. Come on. The money that we are talking about with some players, and good money for other players, is real now. And they are not experts. Just like you wouldn't want to do build your own house when you know how to have a hammer, nails, and some wood. You should not, when you're talking about money that is at least career changing, if not life changing, keeps you on the road for 5 more years, whatever, you need somebody that knows how to negotiate. How, like, we have a lawyer on what's the word? Oh my gosh, I blanked. But we have a lawyer that we pay a fee to keep on demand, basically, to look over any contract before our players sign it. Like, so they need that, because there's things in there that they need to see if this makes sense. We have, I'm looking over these contracts 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour before I'm analyzing them, right? Like, this is not like, this is what the last offseason taught us. Ricky and Dickerson, both, what they did was best for them and their family. That's cool, right? But the companies, they realized these contracts were too loosey-goosey, and they're not that way anymore. And they're not going to be that way anymore. This is real stuff, this is real big time money. That disc golf is here, and it's not going away. And hopefully it keeps growing. I think it will, but it's definitely not going down. It is not getting any worse than what we see now, which is already a pretty good thing. So I'm here to be a part of that. I am doubling down on Beacon. I'm investing a good bit of money in it next year. I've already invested a good bit of money. I have a guy full-time that works for me. We're going to get another one next year. I flew to Vegas and stayed all week. I rented a house all week at Champions Cup, just to get this. I'm saying this so your listeners understand, like, this is not like me talking to them, hey, what's up, bro? This is serious. And we're putting real resources, real time, real expertise into this to try to grow the sport and help.
Yeah, I really don't think there's a better way to end the episode. And when we first kind of started talking, something that I wanted to accomplish with this was the importance of that representation, the importance of having an agency for the disc golfer, and how can we help folk like myself, folk who are perpetually in rec, folk who are maybe aspiring to be on the pro tour. How can we collectively gain some knowledge here and make the sport of disc golf better? And I really think we accomplished it with our conversation here tonight.
Awesome.
Xander, it was so much fun. Heck, if you want to come on again, man, I know I could go for another 3 hours easily.
Yeah, I could talk about this a lot. I appreciate it.
So where can people connect with you? Where can people learn more about your story? Where can they find your players on your site? Plug your stuff for me.
beaconsportsmanagement.com, easy. Beacon_sports_management, Instagram. That's kind of where we camp out a lot. Almost approaching 2,000 followers there, so you can see a lot of content there. And me personally, Xander Kirby on Instagram. But dude, thank you again for the opportunity. I hope it was helpful. Listeners, I really appreciate you guys allowing me to speak to Q today. And hopefully this is helpful, that you had some questions you've wanted answered, as much as I can say. And disc golf is in good hands with the type of athletes we work with Beacon. There's a lot of other great ones I don't work with, but disc golf's in a good place, and let's all be a part of whatever we can do to help it grow.